a verdict in the Nia Wilson trial. She's the young woman stabbed and killed on a BART platform. NBC Bay Area's Melissa Colorado joins us from the Oakland courthouse with the very latest with these breaking details. Melissa, what have we learned?
Jess, a lot of happy tears in that courtroom, a lot of relief. That is how the family members of Nia Wilson described the moment they heard that unanimous verdict from the jury. And you could tell it was a bittersweet moment for these family members who have been there in the courtroom practically every single day. They know this guilty verdict is not going to bring Nia Wilson back, their 18-year-old daughter, sister, but they know that this is going to bring them one step closer to closure. And it really did not take a lot of time for these 12 jurors to reach a unanimous decision. Less than 90 minutes ago, the jury convicted John Cowell of first-degree murder in the fatal stabbing of 18-year-old Nia Wilson. Wilson was stabbed in the neck as she was getting off a BART train at the MacArthur station in Oakland back in July of 2018. Video shown in court showed the gruesome stabbing caught on tape by BART security cameras. The jury also found Cowell guilty of attempted murder for stabbing Nia's sister Letifah. And Letifah Wilson was in the courtroom today and said she knew it was a good sign when she was told the jury had reached a verdict on John Cowell so quickly.
It's overwhelming. Happy that Nia could rest at peace.
They was like, get to the courthouse, the verdict in. I'm like, my heart was fluttering, stomach was shaking. I was trying to eat. I couldn't eat no more. We got here, and I thank the good Lord, for his many blessings.
And our cameras caught this pretty remarkable moment. The family broke out in cheers outside of this courthouse in Oakland when they chanted Nia's name over and over again. You can just see the happiness, but also a very bittersweet emotion on the faces of the family members of Nia Wilson. The jury also convicted Cowell of the special circumstances of lying in wait, which could make him eligible for life in prison without the possibility of parole. And here's what's happening tomorrow. The jurors and the judge must now determine if Cowell is sane enough to be sentenced. And we know that is going to be happening. It's going to be part of a hearing happening here tomorrow afternoon. That's the latest here in Oakland. I'm Melissa Colorado, NBC Bay Area News.
All right, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises due to the Most High. And this story has been sent to me as an opposition or as a comparison to the recent stabbing of the Ukrainian lady by a black man, which President Trump addressed. Now, this happened in 2018, during which time President Trump was the president, where you see that monstrous animal, John Cowell, whatever his name is, stabbed two sisters on a light trip. He laid in wait. That means he spied on, he hawked them, he plotted on them, premeditated, and then walked up to the girls and stabbed them. One sister was rushed to the hospital, Nia. She eventually expired. And then her sister Letifah was able to survive and testify in court. Now, this happened in Oakland, California, on a light rail or BART train, and it was caught on tape. And you automatically hear them when they said that he was convicted, talking about, is he sane enough? Is he sane enough to be sentenced? He was definitely sane enough to commit the act, right? And the thing about this case as well is he actually taunted the family in the courtroom. I think they said he tried to defend himself, but just watch this next clip of the outrage that was caused by him as he taunted the family when they came in the courtroom. And these videos are in fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Just watch.
An outburst in court as opening statements begin in the murder trial of Nia Wilson, the teenager who was stabbed to death at the MacArthur BART station. KPIX5's Ann Makovic is live outside the courthouse in Oakland with why the defendant was removed today. Ann.
Yeah, he had an emotional outburst very early on in the opening statements. He was trying to defend himself, and he did not obey the judge's orders when the judge told him to be quiet. So he was escorted out of the courtroom. Then the prosecution played the full video of the actual murder of Nia Wilson. It was very disturbing. You can see the man identified later as John Lee Cowell walk up to these two women as they were boarding a BART train and stab them in the back of the neck. They couldn't have seen him coming in rapid succession. He ran off. They were able to step onto the train and then stepped off. That is where Nia Wilson ended up falling down, bleeding out, and dying. A very disturbing scene. The family obviously very emotional as they were showing that video. Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom, but here's Cowell's mugshot when he was arrested the day after the stabbing, July 2018. He is charged with murder and attempted murder in the stabbing on the MacArthur BART station platform, as well as a special circumstance allegation that he had been lying in wait. The prosecution showed a series of videos of the moments leading up to the stabbing, showing the suspect following the Wilson sisters from the Concord station, riding in the same car as them for 25 minutes, and ultimately attacking as they changed trains there at MacArthur. Dozens of Wilson's family and friends came to the courtroom today. We are also likely going to be hearing from her older sisters as witnesses as the trial goes on. And one family member talked about what it is like to be in the courtroom with that defendant.
It's frustrating, especially when he comes out and he's greeting the family. You know, it's like really humiliating. And yeah, it gets really emotional, you know, especially when the family are having flashbacks of, you know, just receiving the news on the day.
Now, this trial has been a long time coming. It's been a year and a half since the crime occurred. That is because the lawyers were going back and forth on whether or not Cowell was fit to stand trial. And today, the prosecution showed that video emphasizing how calm the killer appeared to be and showing him later hiding evidence, pointing police away from himself and changing his appearance. He calls it a premeditated tactile attack against Nia Wilson and her sister. This afternoon, we're going to be hearing opening statements from the defense in this trial. Live in Oakland, Dan Makovic, KPIX5.
All right, and so there you see the family members. I think that was the first day of the trial. Talk about when the family came in, he greeted them like he didn't kill one of the family members and tried to kill the others. And that report gave a little further detail. He actually rode on the train with these girls, followed them, rode on the train for 25 minutes, and then committed the act. And so that is horrific, horrendous, if not more than the same horrific crime that the young Ukrainian lady endured. Now, watch this next video because they're going to start talking about his mental health once again in the trial. See, when white people have mental health, it's always an excuse to excuse the crime. But when black people have mental health issues, it's a reason that they get shot by the police, or it's a reason that they need to go to jail. Just check this out. Once again, it's fair use for literary and commentary purposes only.
The man accused of stabbing a woman to death on a BART platform testifying today in his own defense. Good afternoon. I'm Kenny Choi. The defendant has been on the stand all morning. KPIX5 and Makovic is live outside the courtroom in Oakland. Ann?
Yeah, John Cowell talked a lot about having voices in his head. He said there was alien technology that has been planted in his ear and that they've been using a radio to communicate with him. An obvious case, according to both the defense and the prosecution, of mental illness here. He said some people wear fake skin suits, and that he believed the Wilson sisters, the victims in this crime, were aliens. He said that he was being threatened by them, that they had kidnapped his grandmother and was threatening to harm his grandmother, and that this was the only way that he was going to be able to save her. He said that they were standing over him on the BART train that day, staring him down. He admitted that he does have schizophrenia and also a antisocial personality disorder, as well as several drug problems. And he gave a lot of conflicting answers on the stand to his own lawyer about the medications he may or may not be taking and his prior hospitalizations. John Lee Cowell is 29. He's charged with murder and attempted murder, accused of stabbing 18-year-old Nia Wilson and her sister Letifah on the platform of the MacArthur station a year and a half ago, July 2018. And Cowell is also charged with a special circumstance allegation that he killed Wilson while lying in wait, a charge that would result in him being sentenced to life in prison without parole if he is convicted. Now, about a half an hour ago, the prosecution started questioning him and immediately started questioning his truthfulness in general. He basically accused Cowell of using mental illness diagnoses to get a place to sleep for the night, and also inferred that he had never mentioned aliens or fake skin to doctors in his prior history of mental illness. Overall, Cowell has been very polite on the stand, no outburst to speak of, but the testimony continues this afternoon. Live in Oakland, Dan Makovic, KPIX5.
All right, man. We can't make this up. You hear that newscaster talking about he's been very polite after killing one person and almost killing another. Like, I've never heard a newscaster speak about, a black person like that while they were on trial. Nevertheless, you heard him try to play the mental health card. There are voices in my head. Well, all of those voices can be doing the time with you. Talking about aliens. He thought the sisters were aliens and they kidnapped his grandmother and they were standing over them. He has social personality disorder. Okay, well, all of your particular personalities need to be going to jail. And even the judge and the lawyer said he made no mention of those. So that is another example of, once again, white people trying to use mental illness as an excuse to commit atrocities. We all have some form of mental illness, I think, but it's always a positive thing when it comes to white people. Well, he didn't mean to. It was his other personality, and but the black brother has several mental illnesses, and nobody's talking about that as a reason for him possibly committing the crime. So this is once again an example of two exact same things, one even worse than the other, because the guy's killed. He stabbed two people and one died, but there's different perceptions of looking at this. There's different levels of outrage. There's a different narrative with each case. This young lady from Ukraine, somebody pointed out to me, best believe the Ukraine got in touch with America. Maybe, I don't know. Well, they call them a Ukrainian refugee. So when you flee a country, I don't know if they, take up for you. But many times black people in America don't get that advocacy. We don't get that address. We don't get the same treatment because we have nobody else to advocate for us. The people and the persons who are supposed to be advocating for us are the same people who are doing this to us, which is the U.S. government. So, when somebody happens, I think it was a black man who killed an Australian woman, and he went straight to jail. It was a black police officer. He went straight to jail. They was apologizing to Australia, because when you're from a country that values you, then that country will stand up for you. Anytime something happens to a Indian or Chinese person or any foreigner, that country calls them like, hey, y'all got to straighten this. Who do we call when we need something straightened? We go to this government, but this government has showed us time and time again that they don't care, about black lives for the most part. But this is a story, and, once again, it's 7 years old, but it's still relevant to this day because, once again, President Trump was president at that time. And I'm pretty sure that he knew about this incident, but there was no national press conference. There was no holding up the pictures of the young lady. There was none of those things that he did in this case. And as he put it, I quote, the beautiful young woman, who was stabbed on the Charlotte train. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. And as the scripture says, woe to those who show partiality to the poor and favoritism to the rich. As always, peace and blessings.